The snow came early that year. Northern Minnesota was blanketed in white by the end of October, long before the hunters usually ventured deep into the forest. For friends, Ethan, Lucas, Sarah, and Jake loaded their truck with camping gear, rifles, and enough supplies to last a week. "This is going to be epic," Lucas said, grinning as he tossed his duffel bag into the back. Ethan adjusted his cap. "As long as we don't freeze to death first." Sarah laughed nervously. "You guys better know what you're doing. These woods look endless." Jake, the quiet one, simply muttered, "They are." By the time they reached the cabin, an old, half-rotted structure miles from the nearest town, the sun had vanished behind the trees. The forest was deathly silent, only the crunch of boots and the distant howl of wind filling the air. Inside, the cabin smelled of damp wood and something metallic, faint but lingering. "Feels like someone left in a hurry," Sarah whispered. Jake's eyes scanned the dark corners. Or maybe something drove them out. They laughed it off, but the unease clung to them. That night, as the wind rattled the windows, Ethan thought he heard something scratching along the outside walls. Day 2, the snowstorm hit. White sheets of ice and wind slammed against the cabin. The group was trapped. They tried to keep spirits up, cards, jokes, stories, but the storm showed no sign of ending. On the third night, Lucas didn't come back from the woods. He'd gone out to collect firewood and vanished. Ethan and Sarah searched for hours, their flashlights cutting through the blizzard, but only found a trail of footprints leading deeper into the trees. Then, halfway through the trail, the print stopped. Vanished. People don't just disappear. Ethan hissed, panic rising. Jake's voice trembled. Unless something took him. When they returned to the cabin, the front door was open. Inside, they found Lucas's coat, torn, wet, and covered in blood. That night, Sarah woke screaming. She swore she saw a shadow with long limbs crouching by the window, its glowing eyes reflecting the firelight. The fourth day, food was running low. The group argued. Ethan wanted to hike back to town. Jake insisted they'd never survive the storm. Then the whispers started. At first, Ethan thought it was Sarah muttering in her sleep. But when he shook her awake, she swore she hadn't spoken a word. The whispers continued, low, rasping, carrying through the cabin walls. "Hungry, let me in." Ethan grabbed his rifle. "It's the wind. That's all." But Jake shook his head violently. "No, my grandfather told me about this. About the Wendigo. It hunts the starving, the lost. It can mimic voices." Sarah's face drained of color. "That's what I heard by the window. It had sounded like Lucas." That night, the whispers grew louder. They heard Lucas's voice calling from the treeline, begging for help. Against their protests, Sarah ran to the door. "Don't open it," Ethan shouted, holding her back. Tears streamed down her face. "That's him. He's alive." But when they looked out, they saw a figure, twisted, gaunt, with glowing eyes and antler-like horns scraping the branches above. It wasn't Lucas anymore. On the fifth night, the Wendigo came closer. They could hear its claws dragging across the roof, its weight pressing down. Snow fell through cracks as the cabin shuddered. Then came the stench, rot, decay, and something far worse. Sarah vomited into a corner, gagging. "Stay away from the windows," Ethan warned. But Jake was already slipping into madness. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. His eyes were hollow. "Maybe if we give it something, it'll leave us alone." Before Ethan could stop him, Jake opened the door. The scream that followed was inhuman, echoing through the trees. Blood sprayed across the snow as the shadow engulfed him. Ethan slammed the door shut, dragging Sarah back, but it was too late. Jake's screams faded into the night. Then silence. Only the sound of chewing remained. Ethan and Sarah huddled by the fire, rifles clutched in their trembling hands. Neither spoke. Neither slept. At dawn, Sarah was gone. Her footprints led outside into the endless white. Ethan followed, heart pounding, until he reached the clearing. There she stood, back to him, arms limp at her sides. "Sarah," he shouted. She turned. Her eyes were black pits. Her mouth stretched unnaturally wide, jaw cracking, teeth too sharp to be human. The Wendigo had taken her. Ethan ran. Through the snow, through the trees, lungs burning. The whispers followed him. Lucas's voice, Sarah's laugh, Jake's cry for help. They circled him, closer, louder. When he finally collapsed in the snow, he felt a shadow fall over him. Claws dug into his chest. A voice, deep and hollow, rasped in his ear. "Hungry." The forest swallowed his scream. Epilogue. Weeks later, search teams found a cabin. The doors torn from their hinges, blood frozen in streaks across the floor. No bodies, only claw marks etched into the wood, deep and endless. Locals warned, never stay too long in the northern woods. When the snow is heavy and the nights are silent, the Wendigo is always watching.